I'm Sharina. I'm Sharina.
And I'm Tara.
Welcome to the show, you guys. You are tuned in for such a treat on the second and fourth Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are here to bring great information to you.
We are real agents working with real clients, closing real deals. So, whether you're a buyer, a seller, or you're a realtor, maybe you just want to know about the market, tune in because you're going to want to hear us.
Yes, you'll want to take notes. You'll want to share this out. And don't forget, the comment feature does work. So if there's a question that you have, a comment, you want to get in contact with one of our guests or one of us, go ahead and comment below. I'm Sharina.
And I'm Tara.
Of course, Tara, the banner is always covering us. Welcome, you guys, to Real Agents Podcast. We always start off the podcast with you understanding we are real people. We are not AI generated. We're so excited that you decided to tune in tonight. I'm looking forward to your comments, to you sharing this out. I'm Sharina. My co host is Tara. She is so awesome and amazing. She's going to introduce our guests.
Hey, y'all. So, tonight we've got two fabulous guests from two completely separate states. We've got Leslie Henderson joining us. She is the Call It Close Utah state broker. And we've got Jalen Manser joining us, and she is also with Call It Close. She's the Arizona state broker. Welcome, ladies.
Woo woo.
It is girls' night tonight.
Thank you, ladies. What a great intro.
Thank you.
All right. What do we want to start off with?
What's juicy going on in the real estate market? So I see you two ladies are brokers. So maybe let's talk a little bit about why we became agents, maybe Tara, and why you guys decided to kind of level up and become a broker. I think that's awesome. Yes, I definitely want to see people in home ownership, and I want to see people represented with honesty and integrity. Like that's really big for me, you guys. Like when I'm representing someone, talk about over communicating and over serving. I even let my
Yeah.
clients know, like if you don't want to be overserved and over communicated to, you don't want me as your agent because I just don't want to miss anything, and I don't want the person not getting their home due to something I didn't see or something I didn't catch. So I do find myself being a little, as they call, extra. But I believe our clients are worth it, right? They are
Yeah.
making the biggest purchase like of their lives. And so I got into real estate to ensure the transactional process is smooth and clear from the clients. I love clients. I've been working with some amazing senior clients, and they need extra care. I have to go in person and get things signed. They want to tell me all the stories when they were kids. And they're like 80, you know. And so I love that kind of client experience coming out of 10 years of marketing. So that's kind of my little bridge from kind of 10 years of marketing over into the world of real estate, going
Yeah.
into year 3.
I just want to know, Sharina, like in your experience, has anybody stepped up and said, actually, I don't want that level of communication? I'm like, who wouldn't want that?
No, and that's awesome, Jalen. No one has said that. And a lot of my like the reviews, we put out our client reviews and they do
Hmm.
a video. They're like, Sharina came over and painted, and her husband cut
Wow.
our grass. And
Can
I
I
Wow.
mean, we
can I
did
hire you?
backsplash for a client. We did backsplash. We shined the floors.
Oh my gosh, I
We
right now am so glad that you're in Florida.
yes,
That's a
we
lot. You're
we
doing the most.
decluttered the house.
That's a lot.
Cluttered.
That is
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. So it was awesome. It just we want to see the home sell. And I'm like, listen, I'm listing your home to sell your home. I'm not listing it for it to sit. So
Yeah.
this declutter process is so important because you really want people to walk in and see themselves in the home. And I think a lot of our seller clients, I don't know about you ladies, a lot of times they'll keep all their knickknacks up, all their photos, all
Yeah.
their grandkids up. But when you're selling your home, you are preparing to move anyway. So I'm like, why not
Mhm.
expedite it and pack some things early?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Gotta expedite
Great
it.
Agreed.
advice. I
Agreed.
always tell people, like, you know how you feel when you walk into that model home and it's like perfect. It's not cluttered. It's just nice and tight and tidy
Mhm.
and clean, and it like pops. That's how you want your future buyers to like feel when they walk into your house, right? It's like,
Yeah.
wow. That's what we want to help create for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that experience. What about you ladies enjoy, getting into real estate?
Go
I got
ahead,
into real
Leslie.
estate because I was in territory sales, and I suddenly had 2 kids, 4 states. I was never home. So I thought, I could take my kids with me to show a house or two here and there. So that's why I got into real estate. And literally, my kids did grow up in the business.
Wow.
It was their whole childhood.
Wow. Do they talk about like some experiences that they remember, like some unforgettable experiences, like the
Yeah.
key fell through the
So
porch?
there was this one time we were going to the movies, and my kids were probably 4 and 6. And I said, kids, we just have to show 2 houses. And we did. And then the clients were like, can we go back to the first one? Because we really like it and we think we want to make an offer, of course, because we were going to the movies. And my daughter was 6, and she put her hand on her hips and she said, listen, are you guys gonna buy a house from my mom or not? Because we have.
We have plans.
I need more kids on my tours.
I love
So
that.
we
We
went
got
to the second house,
plans.
or the first house again. They were really fast, and they said, you can write the offer and email it to us tonight. And they got it. So they helped
Awesome.
me.
From
They
the
help
mouth
you.
of babes. I love it.
It's so cute.
So for me, I had found myself a single mom with 3 daughters, 3 children at the time, and with no job skills because I'd been a stay-at-home mom for so many years. And I'm like, didn't know what I was going to do with myself. And long story short, from an experience when I was a barista at Starbucks, this title rep came and she was ordering her coffee, and she was like, hey, Jalen, you make a great title rep. And I was like, great, what's that? And so they hired me as a title rep for Stewart Title for Orange County, California. And it was through that experience
Nice.
I realized I wanted to be on the other side. And that's when I got my real estate license. That was in 2016. And I've been doing it full time ever since. Has its peaks and valleys, but overall, I would say I love it.
That is
I love
awesome.
that. I
That is
love that.
awesome.
Thank
I
you.
was a little more intentional in getting into real estate. I'm sure that surprises no one that knows me. Um, in the prior to real estate in the corporate world, I was very much in client services types of roles, and client experiences, and so getting into real estate first, we personally owned real estate and kind of were doing things just without a license because it was personal, right? And as I tapped more into the actual wealth building, wealth creation that can come from real estate, that's really where I leaned in on not only trying to build generational wealth for my family, but wanting to open that experience up to others, right? So I always kind of, my tagline definitely is that I'm the collaborative agent. However, my elevator speech is that I help people build wealth through real estate. So, all my appointments, I've got my calculator, always handy. It's always about the numbers. And so when even sitting with my sellers and looking at, okay, well, what do we need to do to make sure your house is market ready? It's always, what can we do that's at no cost to you as the seller to make sure your house is market ready? And then on the flip side, working with the buyers, it is, what can we do to get the house that's the most turnkey for you? Again, the math's got a math, making it make sense. And so it's truly about building, helping people to build wealth through the decisions that they're making in real estate. So that's what I love about it. And of course, the negotiation part is really fun, but it is really crunching the numbers for me is really where I'm super excited about, look what you saved, or look what you made, or look at what the return on investment on this particular property is going to be, and the cap rate on this property, like what it can become. So super, super exciting, and
All right.
leveraging past skills. But I was very intentional. I was very
Tara,
methodical with my approach.
you're gonna be my go-to gal when it comes to running numbers. I'm like, ooh, she's talking ROI and cap rates. I bet you can tell a buyer like how much it will cost to buy down their interest rate from 7 to 5%, right?
Yeah, sometimes we do have that combo.
Wow, I love
It's even
that.
better though if you can get the seller to do a concession that would help to buy down their rate. But yeah.
Amen, sister.
That's always good, getting that in there. And I also thought about it when we were talking about getting into real estate. My husband was fixing on investment properties like through the 20 years that he's been in home renovation. And we'd see what they buy the house for, you guys,
Yeah.
and what they put into it and then sell it for. It was
Yeah.
like I felt like the banks were like, nothing against the banks, you guys, but robbing people, telling them 3 and 4 and 5% high yield accounts with your money. And let's say $1 million is parked in this account. But if you
Yeah.
put $1 million in real estate, oh my gosh, like the
Mhm.
exponential growth,
Yeah.
Mhm.
of the funding is just crazy. But it does, high risk, high reward. But I don't think, what do you ladies think? Is real estate high risk to you guys? I think it's always appreciating. Is it high risk to you guys? I
I
know.
would say 100% no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think real estate. I
No.
think it's a
I
low
mean,
risk,
you can't go into it
steady.
blindly. You have to do
Yeah,
the math, and
Yeah.
it has to
yeah.
make sense. And you
Mhm.
have to have a good contractor on your team that's reliable, because I have had clients, have grandiose ideas of making all this money in real estate investing. And then once they got the house, I'm like, okay, who's your plumber? Who's your electrician? Who's your carpenter? We don't have that. And you have to have that in place before you pull the trigger, or you'll find yourself, you can be taken advantage of by bad contractors. I think a lot of people have had experience with that.
Yeah.
They'll take a deposit for materials and you'll never see or hear from them again. So that's a risk. But overall, it's not a risky proposition. I would just say go in prepared, do your homework, and have your team in place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
I
just
agree. I think it's
thinking,
almost like with anything else, you have to have like the process,
Yeah.
right? So
mhm.
like what is the plan for the property? Like what is it that you're trying to do? Because that's going to help to determine, are you doing something that's a buy and hold? Are you going to flip the property? If you are going to flip the property, what's the process? Who are you going to work with? Who's going to do those things? What's the ARV? Like I think the part that is the most challenging is knowing what it is that you want to do. To y'all's point, it's less about it is low risk. If you've got a process, it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely low risk.
Yeah.
I think what happens is sometimes people get caught up in the HGTV of it all.
And
You know what I mean? Where
speaking of
it's like, oh, we could
HGTV,
do this in 30 days.
you
You
always
can't.
want to buy the worst house in the best neighborhood that you can afford.
That's
Never
good.
the opposite.
Yeah.
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 That's
It's
really good.
so funny that you say that, Leslie. My daughters and we're looking for a property to flip, and we had that same conversation where it was like, okay, well, why not this one? This house is great, right? That's why not that one, because you
Yeah.
do want to buy.
Mm.
If you're going to do that type of a flip or a renovation, you want to get something that is in a great spot, but it's the lowest end of what's in the great
Mhm.
spot, so you've got a larger return on that investment.
yeah,
That's good.
outside of that, I just wanted to throw in, like, you would not believe the number of people I talk to who say things like, oh, yeah, I was going to buy in the neighborhood 10 years ago, but it was overpriced. And back then it may have been like $250,000 for the house. But today it's
Yeah.
worth like $750. And I'm like, oh, man, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? Like, aren't you kicking yourself that you didn't buy 10 years ago? And so I tell those stories repeatedly, and I'm like, real estate is always going to go up, like
Yeah.
in most cases, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. That's
Yeah, I
true.
love that. What's been
Yeah.
going on in Phoenix, Jalen? What's been going on?
You know what? It's been just such a boring market since 2022. I remember it was like a light switch. May 15th in 2022, we had one of our personal homes on the market, and it was like right past the peak, and it started to like, it just stopped and it started to go down. I'm like, what the heck happened? It's like you kind of looked around and like the lights went off for a minute and everybody was in shock because the interest rates just like tripled, right? And it was just the weirdest thing. And ever since then, you know, buyers have been on the fence and sellers aren't really wanting to sell for the most part because they're locked into 2.5%, 3% interest rate. They're like, why do I want to like sell and be forced to pay 7%? It just makes no sense. But you know, homes are still selling. It's just a very balanced, just kind of a slow, boring market right now.
Yeah. Ours out in Texas, it's not slow. It actually has me sometimes scratching my head like, who are you? Who are you that is buying this $1.8 million house with a 7.75% interest rate and a mortgage? I'm like, well, what do you do in your free time? Like, what are you doing when I'm not with you? Because like it is very interesting to me how much the market did not like kind of come to a complete standstill. There definitely is hesitancy. And we saw some of that hesitancy shake off, and like it felt like people got out there. And then a couple of weeks ago, then people were like, okay, wait, hold up, let me just think for a minute. Let me get my bearings. I think we all saw how Aprilli was talking about, you know, the interest rates dipped down a little bit. And so again, it's almost like you kind of see people opening their doors again. Okay, we're ready. And so it's been interesting. But we have seen like a little bit of a slow, but there is still traction. It is still a moving market. We do still I have a listing recently that went live and we were in multiple offers.
Wow,
And
that's
it was
great.
like a couple of days. But again, certain price points in certain places where we are still seeing stuff like that happen versus things that what we're also seeing in the Texas market typically is more sellers are willing to help the buyer to get in. And that is probably the largest shift that we've seen in terms of, okay, you can tell something's happening with that the interest rates are slowing buyers because more sellers are willing to help if they need to through concessions.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
What about in Utah? What's
In
happening
Utah,
there?
we're experiencing little to no inventory, and um, historically, like from 2015 to all the way back to 2012 to 2019, coming out of the big recession, a lot of markets saw rapid growth, and Utah didn't see as much of that. They started to see the more rapid growth starting in 2019 after COVID. And because of that, during that COVID window, there were homeowners who upgraded and then put renters in their old house and got a taste of being a landlord and what that's like and having that, you know, rental income. So now when properties do sell, a lot of times they don't hit the market. It's word of mouth. They're selling it to a friend or a family member or a neighbor through word of mouth. And we are, for the past 3 years, seeing very little to no resale. And the builders have waiting lists. There's a lot of building going on in Utah. And the builders do play nice with agents, luckily. So new construction is the primary source of what's available for agents to sell in the Utah market.
Huh.
Wow,
That's
interesting.
interesting.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
All of our markets in
Yeah.
Florida seems as if it's its own pocket, I suppose. There are some who are moving out, but there are a lot moving in. So our new construction is pretty rapid here. Like when a new community comes up, it sells out fast. Most of the homes are sold. I think this 700 house development, 1,000 home development. I'm riding through there, and there's like cars in all the driveways. Like they're
Wow.
selling out. And then the resale market, it's doing pretty good. Houses are sitting on the market maybe 2 to 3 months. I think it's still a seller's market here. I'm looking at some of the stats we've been giving some seller concessions, but it's kind of 50-50. So some of our sellers are like, no, I don't have any extra for you. And Florida can kind of do that. It's as if it's its own bubble from talking to real estate agents and brokers from around the country. Seems like Florida has its own vibe and kind of its own market. But yeah, homes are going. Some are sitting, but a lot are going. Multiple offers are happening right now, like you're talking about, Tara. It was a
Yeah.
time, maybe at the end of last year, which I think just might be the holiday season. You could put in an offer and be the only one being entertained. But now, coming up into April, we're heading into multiple offer situations
Yeah.
again, which are interesting because if your buyer isn't the strongest on the table, you find yourself going from house to house getting turned down, and some of the buyers really get discouraged from that, and they're like, oh, I'll just wait because my offer's not being accepted because some of my buyers do need the concessions in order for the deal to work. And
Mhm.
so kind of running into that a little
Right.
bit, and sellers not feeling like they don't that it's not necessary, are waiting on offers to kind of fit them and give them the most bang for their buck. So Florida's definitely lots of new construction. I'm in Central Florida, you guys, between Orlando and Tampa. I'm right in the middle. It's like an hour and a half from Orlando, an hour and a half from Tampa. And it seems like a lot of the Tampa, Orlando, Miami is moving in because of taxes and things that are going on. And of course, just the storms,
Insurance, isn't there a lot of
Mm,
issue with that?
insurance as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, but in
Mm.
the center of Florida, we seem to be a bit higher in elevation. So I
Mhm.
think even the flood zone, there's a lot of areas that are not in the flood zone that don't require flood insurance in Central Florida. So yeah, lots of movement. So
hmm.
I'm looking forward to being one of them agents that just kind of keep jumping on in the movement. So what about the move? Because it's
Yeah.
true. I don't know if you guys heard of it. They talk about I'm going into my third year, but they talk about 5% of the agents take care of most of the business
Yeah.
because a lot of people just know them.
Yeah.
They've just been around, and there is I don't believe in competition, so there is none. But when you are newer, it's kind of getting into that wave of it all. And people, kind of getting to know your name and knowing that, you're an agent. So,
Yeah, it's all about who's willing to put the effort and the work out there, right? It's like, you can't expect to get into real estate, get your license, and be like, hello, I'm licensed, business come
mhm,
to me. It doesn't work that way, right?
no.
Right.
No, I can attest to
Right.
that with both hands. Unless I think sometimes, like if you had a family member where it was like grandmother was in for 50 years and then mom was in for 20 years, and then maybe you have a base where you can share with that child and kind of get them some immediate business. But I do hear that some agents will go 6 months to a year before their first transaction. Did you guys have any of those experiences when you first became an agent?
When I first became an agent, I was right place, right time, I guess you call it. I had been a pharmaceutical sales rep, and my husband at the time was a mortgage broker in house for a brokerage. And um, real estate companies have deals with hospitals where
Mm,
if a new physician is coming
Mm,
in to check out the area, they interview at the hospital, they meet the administration after hours, sometimes at a country club, and then they have their spouse out with a realtor during the day, basically convincing them it's, you'll like it here. It's okay to live in this town. I was specifically in Great Falls, Montana, which it's not that great to live there. So you were really a salesperson for the spouse. And the person who had been doing that for the brokerage retired at the same time that I came along. And so they're like, oh, you'll be great. You'll replace Dick and you can be the realtor for the hospital account. And so
that's
they were
awesome.
growing the hospital. And I sold
that
63
is
homes my
awesome.
first year or two.
Oh
Um,
my.
Wow.
Physicians
Oh
That's
that
my
were
gosh.
amazing.
Leslie,
relocating into the
let me
area.
put Leslie on the big screen. Hold on, Leslie. Let me put you on the big screen real quick. You get the big screen for that
So
news.
All
anyway, yeah, that was
right.
my
Yes.
first year in real estate,
63.
Oh
and
my
like I
gosh.
said, right place, right time, because a lot of agents work forever to get that, but I just happened to have some connections, and I lived in a really small town.
That's
Yeah, that is awesome.
amazing.
Wow. 63. So that's like a
Yeah,
house a
two
week.
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Oh
so you
no.
got your feet
Wow.
wet and
Oh
contracts
yeah,
and
yeah.
everything. Oh, oh, you
I
got
mean,
your
that included sales too. So a lot of times it
yeah.
was, you know, in and out. Because if somebody was replacing somebody, it was 2 for 1s. So it was more like, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What about your first year, Jalen?
Wow.
So my first year in real estate, I had my first deal in escrow about 4 months in, and that came from a
Oh, that's
Zillow
great.
lead. Oh, sorry, am I supposed to say that? But it was like, and I remember my very first commission check after paying my brokerage and my mentor at the time. I think my first check was like
Oh,
$1,500, but I was so excited. I'm like, yes, I sold my first house. It was amazing. But my
Speaking of
first
that,
year,
yeah, I
yeah.
had some massive, massive referral fees. Like, even though I sold those 63 houses, I didn't make that much money.
Mm,
oh yeah, because the
referrals
referral
from the
fees.
Everybody
hospital.
gets their hand
Uh,
out when payday comes around.
yeah, and that's why
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
bridging that over to our amazing brokerage. Anyone who's on tonight, raise your hand if you're with CIC.
The best
Call
brokerage
it.
ever,
Yes, I love Call It
obviously.
Closed. Yeah, I moved from EXP to CIC, the place to be. That's my little rap game.
Oh, that's
But
cute. I love it.
that's my little rap. But yeah, I love CIC because of the opportunity, the growth opportunity behind the 100% commission. We have 100% commission. There are a lot of brokerages who actually offer that or starting to offer that. But I love the education, the Robbie Page, the Haas Pratt, the Jerry's, just making it so much better, helping us to level up what we're doing as agents, newer agents that have been in the business 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We're still getting our feet wet. Believe it or not, for you guys who are watching, I know you're like, wow, Sharina, it takes that long to get your feet wet. Well, it does. In real estate, it's just a monster of its own kind. It's easy hard. It's its own thing, especially depending.
It's a
Yeah, depending on, and
marathon,
you
not a
really
sprint.
got to focus on the long
Yeah.
term when you're putting your content out there. It doesn't matter if you do or don't get followers. You've got to stay consistent. You're building a business. I mean, your branding, your name, your look and your colors. I mean, you're starting your real estate business, and I think that it's important to kind of build that solid foundation. But I think a lot of real estate agents, I find myself even being newer in the business, I find myself encouraging real estate agents who are drowning in the business. They're like, Sharina, nothing is going on, nothing is moving, nothing is. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? Well, my broker, as soon as I say, what are
Right.
you doing? The employee mindset triggers. And they says, well, my broker is not. And it's like, no, you're your own business. Like you're
Yeah.
building this
Yep.
thing. You're your own business, your own brand, business cards. You can't expect the broker to do anything for you. Though it's nice to get something from your broker, you really are building a business and a brand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the most overlooked thing. I think when people are in just really any contracted or 1099 environment, um, a lot of times people will say they want to be in that environment because they want to, have their own schedule. They want the flexibility. They want, but then they start asking for things that is the
Mhm.
employee mindset, right? Because, like, in theory, yes, that would be great if your broker or your team leader or whatever was giving something to you. They were feeding you. But if they are feeding you, just know that's going to come at a cost. Like,
Mhm.
you're not your own business. You are still working for whatever someone else is wanting. And there's a lot of, it takes a lot
Lot.
of
Ooh, la.
drive and
Yes.
discipline to be
Gotta
your
pray for
own
yourself a lot.
boss.
Yeah.
It is, quite frankly, sometimes for me, I'm like, I mean, it would be
Mhm.
easier to be an employee. Um, being a being a small business owner, there's a lot of responsibilities and
Oh yeah.
discipline and execution and leadership and
Yeah.
strategy that really comes with it. And I think sometimes all of
Mhm.
that's missed. And it gets diluted into, I can start work when I want. And it's like, I mean, me personally, I start work earlier now being a small business owner than I ever did working a 9 to 5. My hours are okay. If I'm being honest, my hours are shorter, but I'm waking up earlier. I'm waking up way earlier. And you really are grinding. And it takes a lot of intention, and it's really admirable those that get in and they are successful really at any small business. But those that can make a successful small business work, it's really admirable. Because
Yeah,
it
and
takes a
I
lot.
think
It
not
takes a
only
lot.
in addition to, putting in the work, you have to have the desire and the passion and the heart to do it. If you don't have that, it's kind of like, well, what am I doing this for? Like, I don't even feel like it anymore. So
Right.
to have that, that oomph to like get up in the morning and you're excited to go to work because you know you're making an impact, I think that's like a huge component.
Yeah, and I remember my
Yeah,
first my
agreed.
first 6 months, I felt like I was going like crazy a little bit because I was trying to manage the business, the front of. I felt like you open this new McDonald's and you have like the cashier in the front,
Mm-hmm.
you have the person cleaning the dining room, you have the back office back there with systems, you have the driveway person and the cook. And I felt like I was running between 8 positions. I
Mm.
didn't have transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
I hadn't, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I had to sit down at like the 6 month mark and create systems. If you get a
Mm.
new listing, this is the process. This is the open house. This is how you're going to price it out. This is the appointment. This is if you get a buyer, this is the consultation. This is depending on if they bought before, first time home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
This is the process. And then I put it on the big board on my wall. And then I had another board, current clients.
Yeah.
And so I think creating a system, getting the transaction coordinator at least in place, they don't get paid until you complete your transaction. So I got a transaction bilingual being in Florida, transaction coordinator in place, but I think it was kind of rough because I was working all the positions.
Mhm.
You're all the
Yeah. You're
Yes.
all the
I
things.
think that's one of the
Yeah.
smartest things that I did when I very first started out in real estate. Before I even had a transaction in escrow, I hired an assistant. And
Mhm.
luckily, she was a very good friend of mine and
Mm-hmm.
agreed to get paid after I closed my first deal or two. But like she was instrumental in just getting those systems going and being my transaction coordinator and, helping with those follow-up calls and whatnot. Otherwise, I would have been like, like you were describing, Sharina, going here, there, in between 8 different places, like, ah, it's crazy.
Yeah, like that education in the front, like some of the boards. I mean, I don't know how you streamline it, but there are some agents who are getting that information in the front. I guess maybe depending on the brokerage you join, and then some you're jumping in the brokerage and you're just
That's
trying
a
to figure
really
it
good
out.
point that you guys make because that first year, my
Yeah.
first year in real estate, I was just a buyer's agent for a big team. So all I did was drive the car and open the doors. I didn't write
Mm.
the contracts. I didn't take everything. Like I
Mm.
just drove the car, showed the houses, they picked one, and I was done. And I was on to the next person and the next. And that's
Mhm.
really fun if you
Yeah.
start off brand new in real estate and you're just a buyer's agent for a team because it's just the fun part. And then as I got tired of giving away more than half of the money, I went independent and I was like, "Ooh, this is tough."
But for me, and this is really weird saying as a realtor, I'm like, I don't like showing homes. I hate to say that, but like if it's a listing all day long, like
Yeah,
I love that. But I think it's very important to have those agents on your team that actually love showing homes
yeah,
and they love going around
Yeah.
opening the doors and pointing out the different aspects of the
yeah.
home. Like
20
for me,
years
and I'm
later, I
like,
don't like it
yeah,
either.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and
a
I think
list to last person. Yeah.
yeah.
I
And
and,
it's
and
like
I'm
a deal.
transitioning there. All of my marketing branding is going toward the listing side, which is where I started. But you're in real estate, you're like, oh, well, I'll just help a little bit of everybody. But I do think listings is more of my strong suit and want to advertise the property, open the property, create amazing graphics, videos. And when you work with the buyer, I was talking to my husband the other day when you're working with a buyer, Jalen, and you're giving that person like the best service possible, your
Mhm.
service is kind of isolated to the one because there's no really marketing branding. There's serving the person, meeting them at the house, and of course there's word of mouth from that buyer to the next person who may be willing to buy. But on the list side, you have, like in the grocery store, you have the product on the shelf with your name on it. You
Yeah.
have the sign in the yard. You're on Zillow listed as listing. You're promoting this thing, and I think it provides, on the marketing perspective, an opportunity to be able to market yourself in that community a little more than if you were on the buying end and you opened up 5 houses to show your one buyer. No one would ever knew you were in the community. But if you have 5 listings in the community
Mm,
and people are riding by and they're like, oh, Tara's name, a beautiful logo. Oh, the collaborative agent. Oh, I love that green. Oh, wow, she's just listing the whole neighborhood. Well, you've only listed maybe 5 homes in that community, but
yeah.
but if you helped 5 buyers in that community, no one would really know
Yeah,
that
that's
you
a good point, Sharina. That
from the
Good
listings are
market.
point.
leverage.
Yeah.
Leverage.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
love that,
Are.
Jalen. That's
Yeah.
like a whole shirt.
That
Yeah, that's
is
a
that
whole
is a
shirt.
shirt. We're gonna put that on a
Yep.
shirt. That's gonna be on the back
Yes.
of
So
this one.
Just turn.
ironically, guys, my first ad was on a bus.
What?
Oh, you did it big. I'm gonna
Oh
make you
Big
big
wow.
bus, Great
again,
Falls, Montana,
Leslie.
and it wasn't even my idea. It was our brokerage, and our brokerage they had our pictures in the windows. And so people would say, "Oh, I see your ads everywhere," and I'm like, "No, you don't. I only have one. It just moves all day."
That's
That is
cool though.
awesome. It's
It could
amazing
be
how
on a
individuals,
bus.
like this one lady, young lady said that she got 25 personalized open house signs. And she said for like 3 months solid, she kept calling real estate agents in that community to open their houses. She didn't have houses yet. So she was opening them, putting her signs out, putting her signs out. By the third month, they're like, oh, we're always seeing her signs. And she got so many listings, like from them just seeing her photo and seeing her name weekend after weekend. They're like, oh, she's been selling in the community for years. And she
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
that
I used
brand.
to hold open
Yeah.
houses, and when people would come in, the first question I would ask them was like, "Who was your agent when you bought your current house?" And it is surprising how many people say, "Ooh, I don't remember."
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And I would
Yeah.
Yeah.
say, if you were my
Yeah.
client, that would never happen. You would never forget me. That's terrible.
Yeah.
So it was a good
Retention.
segue to build a
Yeah.
relationship with them and become their agent.
Yeah. And video. And I find videos, I
Yeah.
don't know, do you ladies do? I really love just kind of taking a little short video, saying hi to my client under 60 seconds and just kind of saying hi. Do you guys do text the video or?
I am a big fat F when it comes to social media. It's not my thing.
I'm not making you big now, Leslie.
I've never gotten into social media. I don't know. It's not me.
Never got into it. Yeah, I'm in it. I'm taking some tips from what is it, Two Fly Rio?
Yeah. Hmm.
Rio,
Two
Two Fly
fly,
Two
yeah.
Fly
Rio.
Rio.
Taking
He's
Yep.
some
really
tips
good.
from him. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to, over this next month, you guys will see my socials kind of take a nice little turn for the better. You've got to go with where you're at. So I do have more sounds and more animation and just more coming to my videos because I'm doing great videos, but I don't think they're flashy and catchy enough to keep the the attention of the viewer because people are watching like 50, 60 or more reels a day. So for them to stop at your
Yeah.
reel, it has to be something kind of, something kind of moving and captivating. And you can get the education to them, but the graphics have to be a little more splash and pop
Yeah.
type of
Got to have a good hook. Got to hook them
hook.
in.
The
Yeah.
hooks, Shelly.
Yeah.
I'm going fishing.
Yep.
I'm going
I'm
fishing
going
for real
fishing.
about me.
I like the video text. I normally will send a video text if it's like someone that was referred to me, like we don't already have an established relationship. So I'll send a video text up front so that you can see me, you see who I am. Um, and then I tend to not do the video, but I'll do like the
I
voice
love
notes.
those too.
Um, I also lean on the voice
The voice
notes
notes.
a lot
What
as
about you,
well.
Jalen? How do you keep up like with your past clients?
So I could be a lot better at that, to be quite frank. My husband always gets on me about that. He's really good about keeping up with his clients, but it's kind of, um, I, I hate to say this. It sounds really bad coming out of my mouth. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, but that's my own fault. You know, I've got to be intentional about getting in front of them. It's kind of like, people will randomly pop into my mind and be like, and then I'll text them. I'm like, hey, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I'm like, that's something that I need to work on for sure.
Yeah. I know I had an experience. It hurt my feelings, actually.
Oh no.
If I could get on the
Oh,
couch
get
for
on
a
the
minute.
couch, Tara.
So get on the couch, get on the couch. So I was changing over my CRM system from one to another. And so I was just checking the addresses. And I had two clients, like when I was switching over my system, I had two clients that were no longer at the address, you know, the house that I sold them. They had moved. And I was devastated because I was like, oh my gosh, they moved, which means they sold their house, which means they sold their house without me, which means like I should have been more in contact. And so like that day that happened, I was like, okay, I need to put a process in place. So now what I do to share with y'all and whoever's listening is I try to, like, for past clients, you know, outside of their closing date and the anniversary, I try to almost round robin, if it's not naturally happening, try to touch them at, in an appropriate way, at least once a quarter, right? So like either dropping by and doing like a little pop by or sending them a note on Facebook or LinkedIn or something. Like I'm more intentional, and I do it based off of the alphabet to
Oh,
make
that's
sure I don't
smart.
miss people. Because I truly was devastated when I was like, oh my gosh, those two people moved. One moved out of the state, I found out after I tracked them down. But the other one didn't move out of the state. And so I'm like, that's totally, Tara, that is your fault because, you know, they had purchased and then 3 years later they had sold, and they didn't do it with me, which means I wasn't in
That
front of them. Um,
that reminds me,
so
Tara.
yeah. So now I do the
That
alphabet thing.
reminds me,
Do
Tara,
what?
talking about, you know, being devastated. I was working with some clients and I helped them purchase a home in Riverside, California. And, you know, we had been staying in touch. I wasn't super intentional about it, but because of, you know, my own inactions, like I think a year went by and my client, my buyer client, they texted me a picture like, hey, our house is listed for sale. Like they thought that they were doing me a favor by like sharing their listing with me that they listed with another agent. I was like, oh, great.
Oh no. What are you doing?
And I'm like,
Great. Thank you
oh my
for
God. And
sharing. I will be
everything is
sure to
like,
share
I
it.
put that on myself. I'm like, everything that happens to me or for me is my own fault.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that
guys, one
So
of
personal
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
the best things I used to do when I was a really heavy listing agent in Reno is every year I rented out the ballpark and I did a customer appreciation event because they on July 3rd they always had the fireworks.
Oh,
So I rented the private
amazing.
picnic area and it wasn't super expensive because it was literally hamburgers and hot dogs and cookies and like a fountain soda. And I asked everyone to bring a friend and they did. All my clients would come and bring somebody from their
that's cool.
neighborhood or in their family or friend that was thinking about buying or selling a house. And I would get so much business from that. It was awesome. So if you guys have a,
That's
you know, like
cool.
a double A baseball park or something in your area, try that because it was awesome. And then I eventually, you know, stopped holding it and people would call me and were like, we haven't gotten our invitation for the ballpark this year. Like, are you doing it? Yeah.
Oh, that
People love
I love that.
Yeah, that's a
That's a great
really good
idea.
idea. I
that.
mean,
That's a
just to
great
keep
idea.
that business going, and we're coming down to our last couple of minutes here. But just what takeaway would you guys like to share with the audience? I'll go last. Just whatever's in your thoughts, you know, to share with our viewers.
So I just wanted to share, if you all are considering getting into real estate, whether it's getting licensed as a real estate agent, you know, reach out to us, or whether you're considering investing, you know, creating wealth, you know, reach out to one of us lovely realtor broker agents. We would love to assist you.
And I would say if you're looking to change brokerages, which according to National Association of Realtors, over 80% of agents are looking to make a change this year, consider Call It Closed, because we offer you the greatest coworkers and tools and tricks and advice and coaching. And I can't, there's not even enough time to name all the things that we offer. But reach out to one of our estate brokers if you're thinking of changing brokerages, and just get all the details directly from us. And there's a weekly informational website that you can go to that we can put in the chat.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to tagline into what you guys both just said is it really to be somewhere where there's collaboration over competition is huge. It's immeasurable, and it definitely ties back into being able to build your own wealth, right? And then if you are a consumer and you're out and you're watching us, again, I think whether you're looking to get into real estate or you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, I think the key is just going to be ask as many questions as you can and get with a trusted advisor that's going to be able to share open information, not just information from one perspective.
Yeah, and I
Great
think I want to
advice.
piggyback on that one from my thoughts, Tara, that, if you're out there and you're looking to buy or to sell, understand, choose the person based on the professional experience you feel you can get. I've heard horror stories of a person using a sister,
Yeah.
an aunt, an uncle, a best friend, all because of
Yeah.
relationship, but it just wasn't professional. It just wasn't thorough. So if that means looking on Insta or Facebook or the community realtor and looking through a little bit of their content, looking at a little bit of their knowledge, giving them a call, asking questions without solidifying the relationship, making sure that you're thoroughly, ethically represented and the transaction is like my heart. And so just making sure you do that wherever you're looking to buy so you can have that relationship. But you guys, I'm looking at your comments. Minister Joy, my husband, and a few others. Thank you guys for your comments on tonight. We are on the second and fourth Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Tara has our hook as well as some music she's gonna cue as she well,
I
she's
don't.
gonna
I
get
don't. I couldn't.
she's
I couldn't
It's like,
figure it out, and then
I
I was
got
afraid, like
we
I
can
let
don't
me
sing
know
for
what's gonna
y'all.
play.
Na, na,
we're gonna get a
na,
little bit of
na, na.
yeah.
Hey, hey, hey,
Hey,
hey.
come on, do our hook, Tara, while we do that. Na, 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 na,
Oh,
na, na, na,
real
na.
agents working with real clients, closing real deals, keeping it 100% real.